Hello, BookTube. As you know, if you've been watching this little corner of BookTube, book hauls have been bursting out all over like springtime geraniums. And it's been agonizing for me to watch. It's been wonderful to watch because I love watching book hauls. But it's also been agonizing because I, of course, want to weigh in with my own book hauls. Uh, and the hauls reached a fever pitch this weekend, and I wasn't going to go out looking for books at used bookstores today. Because today is Marathon Monday. Today is the day of the Boston Marathon, which fills the city with people, tourists, fills them so that everything that is normal becomes an agony. All the public transportation, all the sidewalks, all the shops, everything. So I wasn't going to do that. So watching one haul after another, I thought, well, I'm just out of luck. I'm behind the book haul wars 8 ball. And I thought this way as I went out in the beautiful afternoon sunlight with my little dog, who's right next to me. She's buried her face, but she's right next to me. I thought this way as we were going out. I thought, well, for once, I will just have to be behind the curve when it comes to book hauls. And then a voice spoke through the clouds and said, no, no, my son, I will provide you with a book haul out of nothing at all. And on the one hand, there was something good about this because it meant that I was going to get a supernatural book haul without going to a bookstore. But on the other hand, the voice sounded a lot like Gina Stanier, which would mean, if true, that the all-powerful ruler of the universe favors cats, which would be really bad news for yours truly. But it was my blinding white light on the road to Damascus. I did not doubt. And sure enough, by the time we got back, I had a pile of books. So I guess I really am a bookish baddie. I guess I really am. So I have a book haul. Out of thin air, I have a book haul. Not a penny spent, not a shop visited. So I thought we'd go through them together. The first one is an old thing from the 1970s. I had this once upon a time. It's been forever, probably since the 1970s since I read it. It's Anne McCaffrey, who's famous for her Dragon Riders of Pern books. She's not famous for them anymore. I don't know that people read her anymore. This was a different kind of a thing of hers. This was To Ride Pegasus, the classic Darrell K. Sweet cover there. And this is a group of women. It's a collection of stories in which a group of women discover superpowers, basically superpowers of their own. A mind reader, an empath, a precog, a teleporter, and what they decide to do when they all get together like that. I remember liking this quite a bit. I thought there were elements of it that were hokey. The thing about Anne McCaffrey is she has hokey elements in her fiction. It's just that in the really good Dragon Rider books, not all the Dragon Rider books are really good, but when the Dragon Rider books are really good, they also have those hokey elements, but you forget it because you're so caught up in the world building. I don't remember that being quite so true with this, but I haven't read it in a long time. So I will, this is this old Del Rey paperback, I will reinforce this just a bit and give it a reread. Absolutely. If the gods are going to give me a book haul out of nowhere so that I leave here with my little dog and empty hands, perfectly happy to have a beautiful walk, and I come back with an armload of books, if the gods are going to do that, then I'm going to take these as very strong suggestions. Then the next few are for the gays. Got to have something for the gays. This next one is a historical novel by James Lear. Called The Low Road. This is a historical novel. This is Robert Louis Stevenson's Kidnap gets a gay makeover in this witty, hardcore, picaresque novel set in the 18th century Scotland. Against the dramatic backdrop of the Jacobite Rebellion, this book follows wealthy, naive Charles Gordon as he leaves home to navigate a treacherous world of political and sexual intrigue. With his good looks and irresistible endowments, Charles finds plenty of men willing to lend a helping hand and more. I think I've read this. Actually, I think I have an ebook of this, but I'm always up for a reread. And then this next one, I definitely have not read this. This is also for the gays, and it's a little bit on the raunchy side, and it's also angelic. This is Angel Lust. And this is about two immortal angels reflecting on their various amorous pursuits. This is, maybe you once met Tommy Angelo, tall, striking, swimmer's body, eyes like a rainbow, a massage therapist with a gift for making his clients happy. Tommy is in a long-term relationship with Bert. Very long, close to a millennium. See, Tommy and Bert are angels. Not exactly from a Hallmark greeting card, no wings, sexually free, amazingly giving. And this follows them through their various amorous adventures over 1,000 years. So we go back to the England of Alfred the Great. And we also, I think, go into the future as well. William the Conqueror, sorry, not Alfred the Great. And also into the future. So who knows what is going to be in here? There are only so many positions, no matter how you go forward or backward in time. And then the last thing for the gays that we have is an author that I know well. I know his work well, but I've never read this. I've never read his science fiction. The author is Felice Picano, and this is his book, Dry Land's End. Which has some. This is a lot going on. It sounds like a lot going on. It takes place 5,000 years in the future, and it's from one of these weird Harrington Park Press. So basically, indie published. I have a lot of open questions about Felice Picano's publication history, where he bounces from major house to minor house to sometimes nothing at all. Who's publishing him now? I have no idea. But this is set 5,000 years in the future. A rebellion of intelligent cybernetic servants has left females of the galaxy with virtually sterile, crippling the controlling political body, the matriarchy. The race is on to find a solution, and will it be enough to save the matriarchy as other galactic authorities attempt to dominate using sabotage and all-out war? This is Felice Picano's science fiction adventure for a new millennium. And you can tell the new millennium bit because it's intelligent cybernetic servants instead of AI. No one when this book came out. What is this? Was this in the early 2000s? 2004. No one would have been talking about AI then. But this is what I mean. Look at all those books. And yet I bet that represents a dozen publishers. I'd love to know the story behind that. Anyway, that was just a batch of stuff for the gays. Then I found an absolute staple of nonfiction, a fantastic reading experience that is in every book club, every bestseller list. This is Michael Pollan. This is his book, Omnivore's Dilemma. I just found a perfect condition trade paperback of it that I'd be happy to reread. This is about basic foodstuffs and their lifespan throughout history. And the only problem, as I've always said, the only problem that I have with this book is Michael Pollan's long history of the potato, where he gets quite a bit wrong, because I heard from Me Sainted Ma, and I believe it, that the potato was given to the island of Ireland by the Blessed Virgin Mary, which is not mentioned anywhere in this book. But it's this incredibly interesting food history writing, and I didn't have a copy. And if the gods want me to, the gods are what directed me to all of this stuff. If the gods want me to reread these things, I will. Then the next one is Martha Stout, who had the weird insecurity of putting her PhD in her bio, in her author line. You don't need to do that. You shouldn't do that. It seems needy. This is from 10 years ago. Is that right? 10 years ago? 20 years ago. It's from 2005. This is her famous book, The Sociopath Next Door, where she talks about, it's got a little schmutz on it. Well, it was free. So she talks about how prevalent sociopathy is. And this book it's been torn apart for its methodology. It's been torn apart for its sample sizes. It's also been praised as being prescient and as maybe taking a hard look at why sociopathy seems to be becoming more commonplace. Of course, human society would not survive if the sheer percentage of sociopaths hinted at in this book had been real throughout human history. That wouldn't work. We naturally think of sociopaths and psychopaths as being rare. And the main bomb set off by this book is to say they are not rare. No idea why that is, but that they are not rare. I have not read this in 20 years. I read it when it came out. I had a whole bunch of issues with it, but I also thought it was really good. And I would never have thought to go and look for this. But here it is. And all these things cost me nothing. All it was for me to lug them back here. And even the lugging wasn't hard because it was all piecemeal. I found them in a whole bunch of different places. This next one was probably the hardest thing to lug. This is the biggest thing. This is James Michener. And this is him his book Mexico. And this is classic Michener doing Michener. He wrote a whole bunch of other kinds of stuff. Wrote a whole bunch of kinds of books in his life. But he became famous for these gigantic, sweeping historical sagas of a place. Usually a place. Space is not a place, but usually a place like Poland or Alaska or something like that. And this is him doing that for Mexico. And this Michener had a long publishing career, and for a long time in the late 1970s and early 80s, he had really nice looking mass market paperbacks. You probably remember, if you're old enough, you probably remember them. You probably are more familiar with them than you are with any of his hardcovers or anything else. I seem to remember that right around the time when Mexico came out, this was in the 1990s. I think this was in 1992. I seem to remember that right around the time that this book came out, the quality of those paperbacks went down. Suddenly they weren't interesting to me to have anymore. I read Mexico, but I think I read it out of the Boston Public Library. I don't think I was still going to libraries then. I think I read it then. I don't think I've ever actually owned a copy of this book. So to have the hardcover doesn't look bad at all. So to have the hardcover and have it right there, where I could just pick it up off the ground, is fine by me. And then the last three things here are all comic books, because you're going to have something for Hannah as well. The first one is Marvel's Secret Wars, which Michael K. Vaughan and I have talked about on our Epic Comic Book Wednesdays. This was an event, an idiotic event, a toy selling event, where all of Marvel Comics' superheroes and all of their supervillains are all transported at the same time to a made-up alien world where they have to fight each other. And Secret Wars came out month by month, and then it came out as a graphic novel that Marvel has actually never stopped selling. It has legs. And I found the reprint of it with the cover by Carlos Pacheco. This is not the original cover at all. The original cover was by Mike Zeck. And this is, I would love it if Carlos Pacheco had done the artwork for this thing, but he does not. It's Mike Zeck artwork, and then it goes to just, also rants. And the interesting thing about Secret Wars is that it really underscores the power differential. If you actually did this, the villains would walk over the heroes. They would beat them easily. The whole point of having a hero in a superhero comic book, especially a lot of these things are team books, is that the villain will be extremely powerful. They'll be the threat of a 3-issue arc. It will take everything the heroes have to beat them. Not that they'll have them all together. You won't do that, because that would ruin everything. I mean, the villains here include the Absorbing Man, who's a world-class villain, the Abomination, who is as powerful as the Hulk. They also include Doctor Doom. They include Molecule Man, a second-rate villain from the Fantastic Four, who can rearrange molecules at will. He's all-powerful, basically all-powerful. And the villains also include Ultron, who's completely indestructible, and Galactus, who's typically considered the ultimate Marvel character, not necessarily a villain. But when you have all those people together against, Dazzler, the heroes are going to lose pretty quickly. And the writer of this thing, Jim Shooter, he was largely phoning it in, but he develops a scenario early on in the storyline that underscores that, where the bad guys literally drop a mountain range on the good guys, where they have to do everything they can not to simply be squashed like bugs by a gesture that is easy for the bad guys to do. I reread this for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, and I considered that I had spent time in purgatory for it. It's not all that good. There are some moments, but it's largely not good. The longest after effect that this series has is that in one issue of Secret Wars, Spider-Man gets his all-black costume. And that turns out to be a symbiote. It turns out to be semi-alive. That gives rise to the character of Venom, who was and is still very popular. So that's the longest thing that comes out of this. But maybe I'll read it again. I mean, if the gods prompt me, then maybe I should, and I've never owned it with this cover. So I found 3 graphic novels. That was one of them. The other one I found is one that I've never actually had as a graphic novel. I read the issues. And this is a lovely place of dying, a lonely place of dying. This is a graphic novel of Batman stories that take place in the immediate aftermath of the death of Batman's second Robin, Jason Todd. He isn't dead. He doesn't turn out to stay dead. But he was a streetwise punk who Batman takes on as the replacement for Dick Grayson, who was the original Robin, the original Boy Wonder. That Robin gets too old and grows up and becomes Nightwing and leads the Teen Titans and whatnot. And Batman gets another kid, another 10-year-old, to lead into the path of violence and gunfire. And fans were mixed about what they thought about Jason Todd. They were mixed about whether or not they liked him. And in mark of cynicism that still has never been equaled in comic book history, the powers that be at DC Comics decided to leave it up to the fans whether or not Jason Todd would live. They actually had 2 phone numbers, and fans were incited to call. One phone number, Jason Todd lives. The other, he dies. And the artist at the time, Jim Aparo, actually drew both endings because the editors did not know which would win out. They should have known. Because, of course, the votes for Jason Todd to die outnumbered the votes for him to live. And so we get a Batman issue in which Batman is far away and his Robin, Jason Todd, is facing the Joker, who beats him to death with a crowbar. It's not an ambiguous death. He's not missing after an explosion. He is savagely beaten to death. The boy is savagely beaten to death by the Joker. Fans wanted that. That was continuity for a long time. Batman actually takes on another Robin after that. This story takes place right in the aftermath of that. And it's not anything like the aftermath should have been. Talk about verisimilitude in comic books. It's not anything like the aftermath should have been. The number one aftermath of that storyline is that Batman should have killed the Joker. In the storyline of the death in the family, Superman stops him and says that the Joker at the moment has diplomatic immunity. That shouldn't matter at all. Batman should simply kill the Joker. That doesn't happen, and it never does happen. But there should be other aftermaths, especially if Batman is going to take on another Robin. Especially if he does that. I think he does that in this issue. The number one immediate aftermath of Batman doing that should be not the cops and not the bad guys, but the Justice League arresting him. the Justice League, his own friends should turn on him at that point, and they don't. They don't. What does the Justice League know at the time of this story? That Batman let an 8-year-old face the Joker, and that the 8-year-old was brutally murdered because of it, and that Batman is now recruiting another 8-year-old. No, no. What Superman, Batman's closest friend in this continuity, what Superman should do is say, I'm afraid you're retiring. There's not going to be any Batman anymore. You do this, or I'll flatten the mansion, and I'll destroy all your properties, and I'll arrest you myself. And that doesn't happen. Instead, it's just this guy recruiting one grade schooler after another to swing on a nylon line into that row of gangsters who have machine guns. I haven't read this in a long time, and I've never read it in one sitting as one book, so we'll see. Maybe I will think differently. And then the final thing that I found on this Heaven Sent, this book haul of the gods, is also a Batman story. I'm not a big Batman fan, but I am a huge fan of this story. It is one of the greatest stories, superhero stories of them all. And that is Batman Year One. Someone left a copy of Batman Year One, a perfectly good condition copy of Batman Year One, just out in a giveaway box. Just wasn't even a little free library. It was just in a giveaway box. Why would anyone do that? Why? It must be that that some roommate left in a hurry without paying the rent, and the roommates just wanted to get rid of this stuff. They can't have read it. Batman Year One is wonderful. It is the story of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. It's written by Frank Miller. It's drawn by Dave Mazzucchelli, and it is great. It is absolutely great. I'm not a big fan of Batman, but I can say that. This is just fantastic. And now I have a perfect condition paperback copy. So that's wonderful. So I actually have a book haul for you, even though all I did was go about my normal business. We have Batman Year One. We have Batman A Lonely Place for Dying. We have Marvel Comics, Secret Wars. We have Mexico by James Michener. We have The Sociopath Next Door, meant to blow the doors off how we think of sociopaths and psychopaths. We have Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, always good for a reread. I think I've only read it once. Then we have Dry Land's End by Felice Picano, who is wonderful. His books are terrific. We have Angel Lust about horny heavenly beings. We have The Low Road by James Lear, a historical novel with a little bit of a twist. And finally, To Ride Pegasus by Anne McCaffrey, one of her non-Pern books. She wrote a lot of non-Pern books. This is one of them that I haven't given a chance in a long time. I just recently, last year, I found a non-Pern Anne McCaffrey, Kilishandra. I think in a little free library. And I read it and was not all that blown away. I once upon a time, decades and decades ago, I had a science fiction fantasy fan, a very, very well-known science fiction fantasy fan, told me that Anne McCaffrey is a perfect example of a second-rate author who stumbled upon a first-rate idea. And we used to have, I disagreed with that at the time, and we used to have conversations about how a first-rate idea can blind readers to the fact that they're reading a second-rate author. Pern is a first-rate idea. And I don't know. I will give this a try and we'll see. So there you go. A book haul divinely inspired to keep me in the game, just barely, of book hauls. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.